Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I am a makeup lover and enthusiast, and I'm also a graphic designer, and I do feel like those two things go pretty nicely together. And so as you saw in the thumbnail and the title of this video, today I wanted to talk about the whole KVD rebrand, and I also wanted to touch upon some other things like the Makeup Geek rebrand, which I wanted to talk about for a really long time since basically it happened I have some thoughts, as well as touch on Becca Cosmetics and them closing, and just talking about what brands might be next, including possibly KVD after this. Who knows? So just a little about me. I'm a full-time graphic designer. I work at a studio, well, now remotely, but I work in a studio slash kind of design agency, and we do graphic design. We also do product design. So I've worked with quite a bit of different types of brands, from big brands to smaller brands to startups to just anything in between, as well as different types of brands. So from technology to beauty to just kitchen appliances, just literally everything in between. So I feel like I have some background knowledge and also just some experiences because I do a lot of branding, I do packaging, just anything you can think of pretty much. I've created so many brand guidelines. Let me tell you, I can pretty much design them in my sleep at this point. And I also work along some really awesome graphic designers, art directors, as well as brand directors, and you know, my bosses who really do a lot of the more background stuff for like brand positioning and just the kind of nitty-gritty of a brand and what makes a brand and how does a brand speak, what is their tone of voice, and just all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot that goes into branding specifically. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. I also know some other, like, you know, slight behind the scenes on just like production times and just how long things take, how much money things probably cost, which I'm not going to get into any like specific details, but just kind of, you know, giving you a feel for what I think with my background about this whole rebranding situation with KVD. And so this will be a get ready with me style video. So I'll be doing my makeup while I do most of the talking. So this is just the intro. So if you couldn't tell by now by my constant use of these, I don't really think that this is a rebrand at all. I think it is just a new brand positioning and a new logo, but the same old name, just recycled and just slightly altered to align with some of the new kind of aesthetic that they're going for. And I do think this is such a miss on their part. However, I think there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't know. So we'll talk about some of the reasoning that I think is possible for why they didn't get rid of KVD and just went with a whole new brand. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then just keep watching. My notes down here because I just wanted to make sure I cover everything, since I'm still kind of new to this whole get ready with me, put makeup on and talk. So last year, maybe it was around this time, Kat D announced that she was no longer going to be with the KVD or Kat D brand. And so basically what they did was they kind of repositioned themselves as a brand, and they did the whole like vegan, beauty, kindness, whatever, whole spiel. They just tried really hard to kind of, I think, dilute some of the tension that had been on the brand prior to that. And was it the best move? Probably not, but honestly, it's really hard for brands to just like rebrand like that. Also, we don't know how long it took them. The time span of them and Kat D parting ways. We don't know at all behind the scenes what happened, but I'm sure that it was not a really quick process. So like creating a brand, rebranding, and just coming up even with the new positioning takes some time. So that's why I think all they did was just kind of try to tweak it a little bit, keep the logo, and I did kind of have a feeling that they were going to do something else, but later on, it just all takes a long time, and I think that's something that a lot of consumers don't understand, and obviously because it's like you don't know what you don't know, but I think there's like just some sort of an expectation for brands to just turn around like that, but in reality, they're really planning a year ahead. I think at the time that they announced that this was happening, they most likely hadn't even started the new branding, or maybe they did and it just took that long. Well, not really new branding, but we'll get into that. So it's just like we gotta realize that things take time. So I don't know like at what point they decided to part ways, and at what point would they have been able to start creating a new brand, or even just like editing the brand and trying to try to steer it a different way. Okay, I'm taking these off because they are hurting my head. They're like pushing my temples. I'm gonna put up what I'm using on the screen if editing Millie decides that she's not lazy enough to do that. Otherwise, he'll be down in the description box. That's kind of like the beginning part of it that I wanted to talk about. And then I also wanted to talk about what is actually rebranding. And you can kind of look it up on YouTube. You can look it up on the Google. And for the most part, it usually will mean, you know, like a full new brand name, new logo, new positioning, which positioning meaning like they're gonna pick out what their consumer base is, who are they that they're speaking to, which to them are specifically people who like kind of alternative types of makeup, that are not afraid to just step out of the ordinary. That's what I would say. I imagine always rebranding and just kind of what the definition is. But of course there's different levels of rebranding. So in KVD's situation, they only changed the positioning and kind of the meaning behind the letters, which still is not quite there yet. They used like Latin words. Their whole concept is basically based around Latin, and I've already seen some people criticize that a lot, so I don't know anything about that. But usually designers and the people who are kind of creating the new brand would do quite a bit of research to kind of do that. And of course we don't know if they had designers that are in-house designers or if they hire like an agency. We won't know that. I don't know how Kendo works in particular. If they just do it in-house, they might just have like Kendo in general, just might have like a lot of designers that specifically work for all their different brands, or they might just have specifically like KVD designers that work in-house, or they might be outsourcing. A lot of bigger brands do that, but they don't always want you to know for a lot of different reasons. So we don't know that part, but that doesn't really matter. What really annoyed me when I saw the new logo was the fact that it's literally just a serif, like a thin serif font. And so it kind of has the aesthetic of like tattoos and the delicate nature of them, but it's just like, it's really not far enough. And I mean, the fact that they already haven't scrapped the name is quite just not enough, personally. But it is different. Pretty much what I think it is that they didn't want to keep the original, because I'm pretty sure Cameron D drew that one up herself. And that one looks super like really tattoo without being like delicate. It just looks very edgy kind of tattoo style, which I always thought that the logo was actually really cool. So now I do feel like it's a little bit quite a bit, not a little bit, it's quite a bit of a letdown. I just feel like they could have done better even if they just kept KVD. For whatever reason, I don't understand, at least change it to KVB. Like, why keep the D? You're just like harping on the D so much. Like, why don't you tweak the D to look like a B and then a B, you know, whatever beauty. Like, that would make so much more sense than KVD and then adding all the other words to it. That's just me kind of trying to explain to myself what they were possibly thinking behind the scenes when they were, you know, just conceptualizing this new stuff and seeing like where should they go from here, basically. So that kind of brings me to my main point, sort of, as to an explanation for why they kept KVD, which I definitely don't agree with this, but I think it's because of their brand equity. And I've seen some other brands do that without naming any names because I can't, but there is a specific brand that I've experienced with that will just not let go of their super outdated old logo. And it's because they keep saying they have brand equity. People recognize the logo, they recognize the name, and they just have something in their mind associated with the brand. And that matters a lot for sure, because there are those people that just know the brand so well visually and the name and like what they stand for, not what they stand for, but what they do in their products, that they will just always buy from said brand because they just know the brand and they know it's reliable because of the name and whatever it may be. But in this case, I feel like it's just beating a dead horse. Like, I just think they shouldn't have to. And I know everyone's frustrated about it, trust me, I am as well, but I don't think that there was no amount of thinking about why they kept it. But I think there's a really large reason, at least one or if not multiple, on why they kept that. Will we ever know? Probably not. But I do feel like they didn't just do this mindlessly. Whether or not maybe they did some consumer research and they just found through the research that it made more sense to keep the name and keep the brand equity. Whether it's good or bad, just try to keep the original roots of the brand in terms of the vibe and what they offer, because it is pretty unique brand to be in Sephora, especially. Like, it really stands out from the rest, and it's definitely different, and I think it's really different just all around from what else is out there in Sephora, and I think that appeals to a lot of people, and it will obviously get people to shop at Sephora, because then people know Sephora is not just about, you know, the super high-end expensive skincare and brands, but there's also something out there for everyone. If you want to switch it up and buy colorful eyeshadow, colorful liners, lipsticks, what have you. And something that I saw on Reddit actually was an article where Kat Von D was saying how she just wants them to stop using her initials. Like, she just wants them to drop that altogether. And I feel like we all agree, but I just think that's interesting that she's saying that and they haven't. Which is why, again, I think that there's a bigger reason. And I think one of the reasons is, again, brand equity. And we just need to realize that while me and you might watch a lot of YouTube or some YouTube and, you know, follow Trend Mood and go on Instagram and look at all the different brands and stuff and just see stuff happening in front of our eyes, whether it's on either one of those platforms, that not everybody is like that. So not everybody just knows what's happened with KVD. And I know that's hard to believe, but there are just people out there that are just buying things, and they might be buying the same things over and over because they like them and because they like the aesthetic. They like the brand just in general. They just, you know, like the products or whatever. They've tried them out and they know they work for them. And there might be a lot more people than we think like that. And that's why maybe they kept it, because then they'll have those people always coming back. I know what you're gonna say, like, you don't think that's reason enough, and it's definitely not, because I do think they should have dropped the name altogether. Like, I personally don't want any more products that have Kat Von D on it, or KVD even. It's going to be really hard for them to step away from that being associated with Kat Von D, and I'm sure they know that. Like, I just want to throw that out there. I feel like they know that, and they weigh their options, and it came out that they wanted to keep it. Maybe I'm totally wrong, maybe they're totally ignorant, but I can't imagine a large brand like that at this point, especially owned by Kendo, and Kendo not wanting to lose any money, you know, on this brand anymore, because they must have lost quite a bit of money when the whole Kat Von D thing happened, and that's not really a good thing, right? So you know, she left, so they were hoping to kind of revive the brand, and they know that her name is associated with it, so I think they're trying to just like move on, but they're forgetting that it's going to take a long time in order for people to stop kind of associating Kat Von D with the brand. Like, it's gonna take years of like new people like being born basically, and like people coming up that might be 10 years old right now that might come, you know, 5 years later and see KVD stuff and not even think twice and have not known anything that happened prior to. So I just think it's gonna take a really long time. I do want to also talk about Makeup Geek, because boy, I've been wanting to talk about Makeup Geek for quite a while, actually. My thoughts on the whole rebrand, which I would say in retrospect is probably even worse of a rebrand than this one. This one was like much needed. Makeup Geek, not so much, or wasn't done at all. Like, literally nothing was done. But okay, let's talk about that later. So what else do I have in my notes? And also, I don't think they're gonna like explain themselves. And honestly, they don't have to. They're a super big brand. It's not like an indie brand that will just put it all out there for you, because, you know, it doesn't hurt or anything their business. And if anything, it's probably better that they're transparent. But when it comes to larger brands, you have a lot of different things involved, including like just lawyers and trademarks and copyright, and you have people to kind of tell you what you should be saying, and I also don't think it would be a good idea on their part to just go out and be like, yeah, so this is what's happening. And even if they were like last year, like, hey, we're gonna be rebranding like in a year or whatever, like, no, why would they say that to us? Why would they risk things coming up and then them not being able to deliver, and it keep getting pushed out, kind of like Makeup Geek, for example. Like, no big brand wants to do that. They don't want to set themselves up like that to tell their consumers like, oh, this is happening next year, and then people are excited, and then shit happens like Panoramic, and then everything gets delayed, and then what? They're gonna be like, oh, just kidding, it's not happening, and then people will be like, why? So they'd rather stay quiet and do it themselves behind the scenes, and I totally get that. I really think, honestly, I know many people would disagree, but in a sense, it is smart. But that being said, they should have completely rebranded, like, meaning, like, change the name, like, literally just find, like, a cool tattoo-related name and make a logo out of it. At this point, like, anything but KVD. Oh my gosh. Okay, I gotta focus. I can't get worked out while I'm doing my brows. Guess who forgot to wet their sponge? This girl. While I was washing my sponge, I just thought of another point, which is maybe Kendo didn't want them to fully rebrand because it would be too much money, and they've already lost so much money that they didn't want to, like, sink a lot of money into the brand if they were not sure of if it's going to do good in the future. So I also wondered that it could be that they just wanted to test the waters first and see if the brand is going to be successful, maybe if they don't do a full rebrand, because it would be a lot of money. Like, if they really wanted to do it properly, like with, you know, and then having to print everything, probably like get new dye lines done, make new dye lines, get the printing and everything. And so we still haven't seen, at least from like right now, I haven't seen any new packaging in terms of like the boxes. I've only seen a new foundation, which is a really cool press cream something foundation, and it has like a really cool design. It's like a see-through compact, which is really pretty. So we've only seen that, really. And so I'm really curious to see, because I know that they're gonna have to, I know last year they said something like, we're gonna keep the old packaging because we don't wanna just throw all of it out because it's a lot of waste. And everyone's like, okay, cool, yeah, we can do that, we get it, you know, a little bit eco-conscious, we appreciate it. And then now it's kind of like, all right, we're over it. So I wonder though, if they got a new logo, like how much further can they keep using the old packaging? And I just wanted to say from experience, from like working with certain brands, it takes a really long time to filter in new packaging if you already have your old packaging. Like, it will take years until retailers have all of it. Of course, it will depend on the brand, the size of the brand, and then the amount of retailers that own their stuff, that have their stuff, I mean, available in store, and how many products they do have in store. But as well as online, like, it's really expensive to print new packaging, especially on a lot of new products. So unless they start like kind of filtering out some products and either repackaging, like they can't, also the other thing is they can't just pull everything and just put them in new boxes either. Like, that still costs a lot of money to take things back and then put them in new packaging. So I understand that part of it, but also like they need to do it at some point. So I wonder if also this whole year they've been kind of trying to like get out all the old packaging, and maybe we're gonna see some new packaging filter in, especially with this new foundation. Again, don't know what the box looks like. Really curious. I will put it up on the screen if I happen to find it, if it gets released by the time this video goes up, which should go up tomorrow. By the way, it is day 5 of my March Multichrome Madness, which is why I'm using this Multichrome. This is the one I chose for today, which is Phenomenon by Devinah. I'm excited. If you don't know what this is and if you're curious about it, I will link down the intro to this kind of month-long fun series. It's kind of a series down in the description box. So I do think there's just like a lot of moving parts when it comes to just everything, and even I don't know everything that's happening behind the scenes. So it's just like a matter of like us just like assuming things. I understand it's frustrating. Like, I wish I could know too. I wish I could be a fly on the wall over there and know what's going on, because I'm also curious to see like how they're reacting to people reacting to the rebrand. I'm sick and tired of that word being thrown around by these brands when it's not a rebrand. So for example, Makeup Geek, they were hyping up their rebrand for like a year, you know, after the whole like blaming influencers for not being successful, and completely just people stopped just talking about them altogether, and they blamed influencers charging too much, and there was a whole thing about that, when it was just like, no, you just couldn't keep up with the trends. And by trends I don't mean like cranking out makeup and stuff, I just mean like trends in general, just staying in the now kind of thing. But basically, Marlena was really just hyping up the rebrand so much, and I was expecting like new logo, new packaging, just like the whole thing, new website. And then the rebrand happened and it was literally just new packaging and square pans, and even like everyone was confused about that. It wasn't just me. I was just like, this is not a rebrand, you literally just repackage. Like, there's a difference between a rebrand and a repackage. Like, and there was nothing else that was different either. Like, there was nothing like no new brand positioning or anything like that. It just all stayed the same, but the packaging has some splashy makeup on it that looks like a stock photo. So I was really disappointed and just like, wow. Why are you calling this a rebrand? I just like to hype it up, and I think that's something, see, like, brands don't want to do that. They don't want to hype things up ahead of time like that, because then especially you just leave it up to a letdown basically, and especially when it's not truly a rebrand. So that was probably like one of the biggest disappointments ever, and I really truly, and I just really wonder what like Marlena thought about everyone being like, this is not a rebrand. Like, I just want to know, like, what were you thinking? Because it wasn't, and everyone was saying that, so it didn't make any sense. I think that was really disappointing, but that one didn't really, you know, they didn't really need it. I think there's nothing wrong with their logo. Their logo is really nice. They have a ton of brand equity with that logo, but packaging, you know, packaging they could change, especially because it was for like single eyeshadows. I don't feel like that's something that you really need. Like, everyone just throws that out immediately. I don't think that's really something that's needed. Also, you're just shopping them online, really. They weren't, you know, well, not until recently, but you just know who Makeup Geek is. They had that purple, that deep purple with their part of their brand. All right, blush time. So this all kind of made me think, after the whole fail of a rebrand for KVD specifically, not Makeup Geek necessarily. I think Makeup Geek's doing good. I still feel like they're not really talked about after that rebrand, because, I mean, all they did was kind of repackage their eyeshadows and stuff, and they've been kind of like trickling out with some products here and there, but they're definitely not really that exciting, at least to me personally. I mean, in general, I feel like I'm pretty close to like all the beauty happenings in terms of like being on YouTube and Instagram. Obviously, I'm not the one all be all, but I just feel like you don't really hear much. But that's also because Marlena had a baby, which I'm so happy for her. So she's doing her baby thing, and also 2020 wasn't really the greatest year for releases. I am wondering, since Becca Cosmetics just announced that they will be going out of business in September of 2021, which I feel like, why are they saying it now? I'm kind of curious, like, why announce it so far ahead? Because there's definitely been like a lot of people really saddened by it, and I just personally, I was surprised, but not. Like, at the same time, I feel like I wasn't expecting it necessarily, but out of all the brands, I could kind of see it. Nobody was really talking about them for like the last 2 years, and everyone's just making fun of them. So it's just interesting to see everyone now being sad about them and talking about all the great products that they have, which is cool, like, to honor what they've built and kind of appreciate what they've brought to the beauty industry so far. And it is, of course, sad. I'm not like, I don't mean them any ill will or anything. I'm not like over here like celebrating that Becca's going out of business, but I just don't feel that bad. Like, it's just part of being a brand and being a business, and if you can't keep up with everything, then it is what it is. And if you're not releasing exciting things, then like, what are you gonna do, right? I'm gonna set my face a little teensy bit. Oh, whoops. Okay, that was too much. This is like a new alter ego brush that I'm trying out, and I'm not used to like the way that it applies stuff quite yet. So, and I'm only setting the perimeter of my face like I usually do. I don't like setting anywhere else because then I look too matte and like, oh, I hate it. So I'm just wondering if KVD is going to go under now. Like, is KVD next? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below, because I think there's other people wondering the same. I mean, I would say this was a pretty failed, obviously it hasn't fully like launched. They haven't fully launched everything under this new brand. But just seeing how it's received, I can't imagine that completely turning around and like skyrocketing their sales. So I'm curious to see in a year, we might in 2020 see KVD going under. Because at the end of the day, you know, they're owned by Kendo, and these parent brands just, they don't want to have brands that are not performing well under them and not selling well. Like, that's not, you don't want to be losing money that way. You don't want to risk losing money. So I wouldn't be surprised if KVD goes under in the next year, and Kendo possibly in the meantime starts a new brand of similar type of vibe. Maybe not exact, like just take it up, like kind of take it up and elevate it, and still keep it edgy, but just, you know, separate enough that we won't even realize that it's a replacement for KVD. There is bunny fur on my face and I can feel it and it's annoying me. But honestly, I was actually expecting Stila or Lorac to go out of business before Becca. I really thought that it was going to be one of those brands because, like, I mean, those brands weren't really that exciting to me ever. Maybe Lorac a little bit. I think I did want one of those palettes once. I'm so glad I never bought that. Oh my god, it was like a $50 palette. And during those times that I wanted it, I was still kind of like, oh, neutrals. I know a lot of people have been saying Tarte. I actually don't think Tarte. I think that they're probably doing well like other places. And I also think I read somewhere that Urban Decay is doing really well in Europe or something like that. So I don't really think that I could see them going under anytime soon, though Urban Decay has definitely been trying to kind of ramp it up a little bit, but if they're succeeding is a whole nother story. They're still not really on my radar. They never really were. I think maybe like 6 years ago they were, because I was like, ooh, the concept, grungy, and no, they're not. They're just all naked now. It's kind of like, can you please do something else? Please, we're begging you. I wonder though, if at some point, if they don't let go of this whole naked thing, if they might like go under. I'm curious. I think they've been trying to branch out. They did that, you know, ultraviolet purpley palette, or attempt at a purpley kind of exciting palette. And then the whole Wild West palette, which everyone thought was a fake. I mean, the fact that we all thought that was fake, I feel like that alone says a lot. Like, that's concerning. I would be very concerned. I applied this a little too chunky, but oh well. I didn't mean for it. It's kind of going into my under eye bags. So I'm just gonna do some Faux freckles. I'm gonna kind of speed through that. This is super messy. Can you see it? It's all on my hand. I'm just gonna wipe it right away. Oh my god, it's all over my shirt. Oh no, well, good thing it's a black shirt. So let me know in the comments below what your kind of thoughts are on this whole thing. I know I haven't really been that much like within the comments, the depths of the comments under the KVD stuff. But I feel like so far I've heard a lot of people just like not happy about the whole rebrand. And I really think that this is something that is substantial enough to possibly put KVD under. Because it's just like you're clinging on to a name or initials that have a negative connotation, and you cannot just stray away from that. It's just like there as a reminder, and I don't like that, and I don't think it's a good business move. I am curious, like, again, we will never know what's going on behind the scenes. We won't know what kind of conversations they're having and other things. I'm gonna put on this Lisa Eldridge lipstick, and I find this extremely frustrating because it just seems so clear for all of us what there is to do, and that is to get a new name, get a new logo, get a new everything. But how old is this brand? How old is a KVD brand? I'm not really sure. It's, I would say like what, 4 or 5 years old at this point? That's a long time for a brand, and to try to completely rebrand it is quite a bit. That's quite a feat, and to rebrand it in a way that they will not lose their whole entire customer base. I just feel like there's something there that I'm not getting and that we're never gonna know. And unless they come out and they surprise me and they are going to just be like, this is what's happening, but I don't think so. They're too much of a big brand. They wanna keep a certain level of, they're not like an indie brand where they want to be close to the consumer, you know, they want to be like have a close relationships and be relatable. That's not what this brand is about. It is about being relatable on a very like aesthetic type of level, and also like somewhat on a moral level when it comes to like animals and stuff, but otherwise they want to keep their distance from that stuff. And I also feel like they have these conversations where, you know, lawyers and stuff, where it's just like, no, you shouldn't just put it all out there. I feel like that would just cause more backlash. So I feel like that's kind of what I wanted to speak my mind about, because there's just a lot of things, so many things behind the scenes that go into these brands. And I'm not saying that to like excuse them, because I don't agree that they should have kept KVD. But we're just gonna have to see like what happens now. I guess it's really going to be watching them. And then I'm also curious. I'm curious about Becca, because I feel like now people are going to be hyping it back up because they're gonna feel bad. So I almost wonder if they're gonna end up not closing, but I'll be shocked. I'm sure they're still gonna have releases, because brands like this plan things way ahead of time. So I don't think that they're anywhere near done. Like, I don't think it's gonna be no releases until September. They're gonna be still releasing products, and then just wait for a huge sale at the end of August into September. I would say I wouldn't start buying things now. They might end up selling out, which would be actually pretty ironic. So I'm gonna put on a wig because my hair is super gross. And then I'm just gonna kind of leave you with some final parting thoughts. So that's kind of everything I wanted to say. I hope that you found it interesting from my perspective. Let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts and your opinions. Do you think KVD is next on the brands to go out of business? What other brands do you think? Or are there any other brands that you think might go first in 2021 or 2022? I just think it's interesting to have these kinds of conversations as consumers and seeing it from all kinds of different perspectives, depending on your background and your job, kind of experience you might have. So I would love to hear some of your thoughts. If anybody has any sort of experience with marketing as well, and like some more behind the scenes, I would love to hear some of your opinions on this as well. But I thought I would share some of mine because I thought it would be fun to put on some makeup and just kind of talk about it, talk it through, because I did have so many millions of thoughts running through my head the moment I saw it. And then some of them other posts after that, I just felt like I had so many feelings I needed to get out there. So that's everything for this video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribed. I post a lot of indie makeup content and lots of sparkly, shiny, shifty eyeshadows on my channel. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.